I'm guessing I'm live, right? I can't tell. Hey, y'all. I'm trying to figure out if I'm actually live or not. It's saying I am. I'm trying to figure out if I'm. Okay, I am. It's so much easier doing this with like a group of people as opposed to doing this by yourself because you don't know if you're really live or not. I mean, clearly it says that you're live, but you can't. And I think the chat on my screen is a little slower than the chat that is actually happening. So that should be fun. But hey, everybody. Hey, 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 hey. Let's see if my technologically challenged behind can keep up with this. So, first things first, y'all tell me, what are you hey Gavin. What are y'all reading right now? What is everybody currently reading? Y'all let me know as I take a sip from my pink Moscato. Had to take the edge off before I did this. So pink Moscato it is. I used to drink tequila used to be my pick of poison, but then, had a baby. I didn't drink for like a year or something like that. But so then I stopped drinking hard liquor. Hey Tammy. Oh, I wish you could stay. It's good to see you. I feel like I usually just interacted with you a lot on Twitter, but now that I'm kind of like taking a break from Twitter, I don't get to talk to you as much as I used to. So, hey, hey, hey. Let's see. Moonchild, Voyage of the Lost and Found, middle grade. Not Gavin, you already have like 30 something books on your TBR. So, how you started off August not reading a book on your TBR, please enlighten me. Lynn, for my sins, a reread of Twilight. You know how I feel about Twilight already. I'm sure most of y'all know how I feel about Twilight. Trash! It's trash. Clap When You Land, that is on my TBR. It is sitting behind me. Becky Chambers, I have not yet read, and I think it's because I'm not a huge sci-fi reader, but I've heard nothing but great things. See, Duty or Desire by Brenda Jackson. Heard nothing but good things about Brenda Jackson, OG Black romance writer. Son of Neptune. Okay, I am a Percy Jackson, just Rick Riordan fangirl. I don't think I talk about it as much as I should, but I love anything that Rick Riordan puts his hands on. I need to do a reread of The Heroes of Olympus, but I still haven't reread, what is it, Percy Jackson and the Olympians yet. So take a hint, Danny Brown. I still have not read the first book. I think I'm kind of like when books are super, super hyped, I'm not big about picking them up because, I feel like I'm not going to like it because the hype is going to put too much into it. Children and From Heaven, The Living Us, Constitution, Science, and Hell. So You Want to Talk About Race. I have So You Want to Talk About Race, I think, in my bedroom somewhere. Let's see. Black Girl Unlimited. I was supposed to read that in July. Did I read it? Absolutely not. Hey, Liv. It's all right if you're late. Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. Okay, so I just started. Is it The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones? Very, very interesting, and I'm only about 5 or 6% into it. But believe it or not, I've had to start that book over twice since I started reading it, just so I can keep up. And this is the first time that I think I've started listening to an audiobook at 1.0 speed, and I feel like I need to leave it there. Jade War, okay. I know a lot of people are reading that. Let's see, Clap When You Land again. Yes, for a manga reader. I still haven't started that series yet, but I've heard nothing but good things. Writing. I wish I had that urge to write. I think I've had people ask me like, "Do you want to be a writer?" And I'm like, Nah, I don't have it in my soul. Okay, The Vanishing Half. So good. I gave that one 4.5 stars. Very, very intricate exploration of colorism and white passing. I also read her first book, The Mothers, when it first released, I think in 2016, 2017-ish, and it was really good as well. So she definitely is an amazing writer. So I don't know if you're Thank you for joining us, and I appreciate the compliment. Gray Sister, Mark Lawrence, right? I haven't read anything by Mark Lawrence yet. Okay, Gods of Jade and Shadow. I have that in my car. Y'all, I keep books everywhere. It's kind of disgusting, really. Like, there's books on the shelves, there's books in the bedroom, there's books on the dining room table, there's books in the car, there's books in the trunk, and then y'all should see what my office looks like at work. It's bad. Let's see. I'm reading The Deep, okay. Yes, we are having a live show for The Deep on August 6th at 8:30. It is a powerful, powerful, powerful book. Powerful book. Mistborn. Okay, so I need to reread Mistborn. I read that. I think I read Mistborn 4 years ago now. Was it 2020? Maybe 3, 4 years ago. And I absolutely loved it, but I don't remember anything from it. But I do remember loving, like absolutely loving the magic system. The Deep. I'm so glad. Let's see. No, The Deep. I'm so glad. Yes, The Deep. I hope y'all enjoy The Deep. It is the most I want to the most hard hitting, not like I cried because I know I talked about Anger is a Gift and how I bawled with that one. I didn't cry with The Deep, but the emotional impact that I felt with The Deep was crazy. Felt seen. All right, princess. I see when you come back, love. If you come back. If you don't, it's all right. Yeah, listen, watching your TBR today, I was like, I thought my TBR was complicated, but I think we're running neck and neck after watching your video. Song in the okay, Nana Volume 2. I'm glad that more people are reading Nana because that's one of my favorite manga series of all time. It's really, really good. Okay, let's see. See, just finished The Deep, also reading okay, I can't remember the no, I've seen that one. It's a really, really beautiful cover with like a deep bluish color chip on the front. Seen it. I've heard not so good things about it. So I had it checked out from the library at one point and then I was like, yikes. I I don't think I want to do that. Okay, so I wish more I don't know if there was ever like a hype train for The Astonishing Color of After, but I read that last year right before I moved, and it was so good. It took me a while to read it because it was so intense and it was so much magical realism mixed in, but I loved it, and especially the conversation about mental health. That book was phenomenal. Oh my goodness, I wish more people have read that book because it's so good. I saw somebody ask a question, how's baby girl doing? So, just a quick update for those of you who want to know. So, baby girl and I went to the park this morning, which, if you watch my vlogs, is kind of our routine type of thing just to get us out of the house. And the place that we go is like very much so almost like in the woods. So, there's not a lot of people, and it's the safest place to be like outside. So we spent kind of most of our day there, but she had no urge to nap today. So we had a very, very interesting afternoon. She's currently passed out because it was one of those crash and burn situations. Hey, Chelsea. Let's see. You spent 5 hours creating a spreadsheet? Woman, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way. I couldn't do it. Okay, that's Liv, I feel like maybe I heard you talk about it. Maybe it was in one of your wrap-ups or something that you did because I feel like I was about to read it and then I feel like it must have been you. And I was like, no, forget it. I'll just return the book. And I never read it at all. Okay, so this is supposed to be like a Q&A, a live version of a Q&A. Um, so I put it on the commentary board on my channel, and I just had some people ask me questions. So I have the questions here on like sheets. So what we can do is we can just let me answer the questions, or we can kind of do a back and forth type of situation, or we can just kind of let it flow and vibe and we just kind of go with it, which is more of my personality, just kind of go with the vibe. Like I can answer a question and kind of see where we're at if anybody else is asking questions. So if there's a question that you want to ask, go ahead and ask. But I'll start off with one of the questions that I got in here. And let's see what somebody, and I didn't write anybody's names on these, y'all. Life of motherhood, you do everything last minute and then try to make it look like you've been playing for this thing the entire time, which I haven't been. Okay. So the first question is, do you feel like being a librarian has changed the way that you read? Yes, it has. I definitely will say that reading diversely is such an important part of being a librarian. You can't necessarily just stick to one genre. I mean, we do have our emphasis. So like when you work in a library, a lot of times you'll find that when customers come in or patrons come in and they're asking for readers advisory, which is nothing more than recommendations, sometimes we do have team members who are more well versed in certain genres, but like part of my job and part of things that we have to do for evaluation is reading all over the place. Like, so I can't just necessarily read um, YA all the time. I can't read adult all the time. I can't read romance all the time. I can't read middle grade all the time. Like, I have to be well versed in a lot of different areas, which is why it looks like even on here on BookTube, I read a lot of different things. Is because now naturally it's kind of ingrained in me to do that. So I seek out titles from as many different genres and age groups as possible. And I don't think I did that as much as I would have before coming a librarian. I think being a librarian, it changes a lot. The way you look at a lot of things when it comes to reading and literature, like it's kind of different. So yes, you got to have stuff for readers about. You do. You really do have to have stuff for readers advisory because people will come in and they'll ask you the most random questions when it comes to readers advisory. Like we do get those questions like, "Oh, I read a book with a blue cover and it had a character named Mary. Do you know what book I'm talking about?" So the more you read, the better versed you are in it, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Yeah, what's crazy is that I find myself, I do end up reading a lot of YA because of the fact that I I am a teen librarian, so my emphasis really is in any literature geared towards 12 to 18, and sometimes that does include some middle grade. So I always find it interesting, even on BookTube, when we classify certain things as certain age groups and I see it float between two. And the way that we classify things in a library is not necessarily the way that we classify things here on BookTube. So I know that a lot of times we say middle grade, but in a library setting, there is, at least in my system, there is no section titled middle grade. Everything is listed as children's, or you'll see in a lot of library systems, it'll be labeled as juvenile. So there is no title technically called middle grade in a library setting. And we don't even use some systems, like my system, don't even use the word YA. We use the word teen. So it the whole dynamics, it's is very different. Did you always want to be a librarian? No. I wanted to be a nurse at one point, and then I was a what are they called? Like candy stripers? I was a candy striper, and I never forget. So I'll never forget that I actually saw a guy come in from a motorcycle accident. And after that, I was like, "No, I'm done. I that's not for me. I can't handle it. I love helping people. I love working with people, but that that just wasn't my thing. So no, I did not always want to be a librarian. I was looking for a job, and I was like, dang, what should I do with my life at this point? And I saw that my system had a couple of jobs open, and I was like, well, I like to read. So, and that's the first mistake that everybody makes. When you say, oh, I like to read, I could be a librarian. They're not, it doesn't work like that. That's not the job. And I learned that. I had to learn that lesson myself is that, I thought, oh well, I like to read a lot, so I'll just be a librarian. The librarianship goes past reading. It goes way, way, way past reading. Um, what's your favorite reader's advisory to do? Mine has been so okay. I've worked at two locations or what people know as branches, and I've worked in two very, very different communities. I worked in a predominantly white, middle class to upper class area where I was expecting in every home there to be at least one to two computers, laptops, and access to Wi Fi. Parents super involved, where they were pushing their kids to read all the time. So the reader's advisory there was easy. I mean, it wasn't that hard. Now I'm working in a different community, which I love the community that I'm in now, but I have a lot of reluctant readers. So that has become my favorite type of reader's advisory because it challenges me as a librarian to work with a kid who looks at me and says, you know what, like I don't like to read, it's boring. Like, and kind of looks at you in your face like, and so what are you going to do about it? Like, do you really think you can change that? And I love pushing young Black boys and young Black men to read. That has been my favorite type of reader's advisory. Um, I think that it is super important to me personally. So when I have a young Black, boy or a young Black teen come in and they're looking for something and they may be a reluctant reader or, they just want to broaden their horizons, that's kind of like my niche area now, or it has become my niche area. Yes, I wish more people read picture books. I think I had started off on my channel this year doing like picture book reviews, but I don't know why. I really fell off because I didn't have as much access to picture books anymore because of the fact that, the library closing, I only had what I had already taken home for baby girl. So it was kind of like we fell off a little bit with that, but I probably should start back doing that because I think picture books get this bad reputation that they're not good literature, which to me is mind boggling because picture books are often written with multiple audiences in mind. You could have a picture book and use that to teach a high school class, believe it or not. You could have a picture book that's written for a child with the parents in mind, where there's underlying themes and humor that the parent would only get. Picture books are the foundation for everything. So why they have such a bad reputation and why people feel like, like if you read picture books, they shouldn't count on Goodreads or picture books just don't like that to me is just I don't mm, I don't really I don't really get that. Let's see here. Do I have any picture book recommendations? You would ask me this on the spot. And there's so many. It depends on what you're looking for, to be honest. Whether you're looking for, so I'm storytime trained as well. I don't think a lot of people know that. So I actually do storytime. So whenever I do story time, I always include picture books that have concepts. That means that they teach numbers, colors, shapes, picture books with real photographs, picture books that have a storyline. So really, it depends on the genre. I know a lot of my favorite ones. I don't know if you guys have ever heard like the Llama Llama books. I like anything by Brian Pickney. Jacqueline Woodson has some really, really great picture books as well. Um, oh gosh, y'all, there's just so many. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So if you give me a particular genre of a picture book, I'd be better at giving you recommendations. DJ, you would ask me this hard question. Can you name three books that you read as an adult that you wish were around you that you wish were around when you were a kid or teen? A lot of the books I feel like I read wouldn't have been age appropriate. Okay. Honestly, I think that the three people, I don't call them a holy trifecta, but to me they do feel like a holy trifecta in some sense. I wish that I had more of, or I was exposed to, because I feel like two of these individuals were around when I was younger. I wish I had more of a Jason Reynolds when I was growing up. I think Sharon Draper was around when I was growing up, but I was not exposed to her until I became older. Same thing with Jacqueline Woodson. I think those three authors do such a good job of letting youth know that they are um, visible or that they're important. And I didn't get that a lot when I was growing up. I mean, when I was growing up, and not saying that these authors aren't important to literature, because they very much so are, but in the sense of me seeing myself, not so much. Like, I grew up reading like Judy Blume, Beverly Clearly, and they are assets to the literary world. But in the sense of me seeing myself, not so much. Even oh goodness gracious, I can't even remember the name. Monster. I can't even remember the name of the author. So if somebody remembers it, drop it down. I wasn't even exposed to him growing up. And I don't know whether that was because my mom didn't read. My dad did, but my dad is from England slash Jamaica. So what he was reading was a little different as well, what he was exposed to as a child. So he was navigating it the same way that I was as a child. My mom didn't read. So I didn't grow up with things I feel like I should have grown up with. And that was a very long-winded answer to that question, by the way. Walter Dean Myers, thank you, y'all. Yes, I feel like as much as I like Monster, to me, I have a very complex relationship with that book. It's a very, very weird relationship with that book, but I feel like books like that would have been super important to me. Yes, I did read R.L. Stine growing up. I read a lot of R.L. Stine. I read a lot of Wishbone. Um, I read a lot of Babysitter's Club. I read those, like what we call chapter books. So there are books that are chapter books. They're not middle grade, but they're like children books, and they're usually for like ages, I would say second to fourth grade. So I read a lot of those you get like at this Scholastic Book Fair. That was like, my jam. And I wish, yes, Chelsea, I loved, and I'm trying to pull it up, but it won't let me pull up your comment. Um, Here we go. So yeah, I loved Wishbone. I had a lot of like the how he would redo classics. I really love those because I like Wishbone, like the TV show on PBS. Growing up with no cable, that's what that means. Like watching Wishbone and and all this stuff that would come on PBS when you didn't have cable. So I really got hooked on Wishbone, and then I found out that there was a book series, and I collected all of them. And would y'all believe that my stupid behind sold them all? And my mom told me, because I asked my mom when I was at her house during like quarantine and stuff, and I was like, "Where are my Wishbone books?" She's like, "Remember you sold them because you were like you never gonna read them again." Just young, stupid, naive me. That's what that was. All right, so another question from here. Yes, I listen because I literally did not have cable, y'all, until I was in eighth grade. That's when I first got cable. So I grew up on Wishbone, Liberty Kids, was it Dragon Tales, Reading Rainbow, Between the Lions, or Between the whatever, Zoom. I grew up on all that stuff because we had no cable. All right, another question. How long is your TBR? I guess I should have asked, like, is is this physical? Is this digital? Is this my like? Is this like what I want to read in my lifetime, or is this books that I own? So most of the books that I own, I have not read, and that is the double-edged sword of being a librarian. Is that you own a lot of books, um, and you never read the stuff that you own because you run across so many titles at work that you end up reading before you read your own collection. So if I had to answer this question, I would say that my TBR is infinite and it's horrible. It's horrible. I took when I rearranged on my bookshelves, I took a lot of stuff out and I have it in my closet because I don't have anywhere to I can't donate to the library right now. We're not taking donations. So I took a lot of stuff out, but I still have a lot of stuff in this collection. It's a lot of stuff. I knew this question was coming, so I'm going to go ahead and get this out the way. Let me see. Okay. What are your thoughts on the Reading Rush live stream? Because I knew that this question was coming. I knew that probably someone was going to ask me. Okay. I usually don't talk. I didn't talk about the Reading Rush at all. I don't know if anybody noticed. I opted not to participate in the Reading Rush because of the situation that happened on Juneteenth with the announcement being made on Juneteenth, which, you know, for me personally, I can't dictate how every Black person feels. I'm not the speaker. I'm not the end all be all for Black people. But Juneteenth is a very important day of remembrance for me. And I felt like by directing attention away from that day of remembrance to this, it made me not want to participate. I silently decided not to participate. I know a lot of people noticed. I never said anything about it. I never did an uproar about it. With the live stream, for me, it's, you know, if you're picking a book in this climate, I think a lot of times you have to take into consideration the climate of the world right now. Okay. It's not anything that's new. I'm not saying that, you know, this is the first time that we've had a situation with Black Lives Matter. That's not true. But this is the first time that I think that a Black person dying at the hands of police brutality has brought the world to its knees. And to be in the climate that we're in right now, I think you have to be super self-aware of every move that you make, especially when it comes to listening and paying attention to Black voices. What disturbed me the most about everything is the responses. I don't think I'm trying to find the way to appropriately word this. I don't think that I don't think that the individuals involved are malicious individuals, okay? That goes back to that whole concept of the good bad binary, which I don't know if anybody has already brought this up. You can do things that offend certain marginalized groups and not be an inherently bad person, okay? Yes, people make mistakes. Yes, it happens. It's not right, but it will happen until the end of time because we're human beings. It doesn't make anybody a bad person. However, in this climate, you need to be self-aware. And that's my issue, is that picking a book that was written by a Black author and then joking about how you didn't read the book was an inappropriate reaction, in my opinion. I think that if you didn't read the book, which is understandable if your time was pressed or whatever the case, because I don't know their personal lives. I think at that point, it's time to make a statement and say, we're going to hold off from having a live show because we want to give ourselves more time to read the book and have an appropriate discussion. Do I think it was a lapse in judgment? Yes. Do I think there have been several lapses of judgment? Yes. Um, did I really have a huge response to what was going on? Not really. I felt like it was time to maybe retire it for the moment. And I'm not a fan of cancel culture because I feel like people of color suffer more from cancel culture than anybody else. But when I say things like you need to retire, that means you need to pull back and you need to self-reflect and you need to figure out exactly what are your plans moving forward? What plans of action do you have? Because our society has bred this culture where you can say that you're sorry and you can say, we shouldn't cancel them, but you're not giving people the opportunity to grow. So I think it's important to say, in my words, when I say retire, I mean, pull back and take some true time to self-reflect. Take some time to really work on yourself. If y'all have listened to anything that I've said during these past few months, I've always said it's about working on yourself because you can't change anything on the outside. You can't fix anything on the outside unless you change yourself because it's you. You have to be willing to work on yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, I need to work and self-reflect and think about some things and some ideas and biases that I have that I may not even be aware of. There was no conversation about implicit bias because sometimes people make mistakes because their biases are at play. And if you don't take the time to acknowledge your own personal biases and realize like, oh shoot, I'm thinking this way and I didn't even realize I was thinking this way, nothing's ever going to change. My biggest point of anger probably came from the responses that, and not all white people, but some white people were having to what I don't feel like was an apology. It wasn't excuses, but it was an explanation. You don't have to, first and foremost, you say, I'm sorry for actions that I committed that hurt. And because there was some ableism that was going on in there too, but I can't speak to that as because I'm able-bodied. But as a Black person, it was very frustrating to see white creators comment under that and accept an apology that didn't belong to them. Okay. People were saying stuff like, everybody makes mistakes. And I don't disagree with that comment. Everybody makes mistakes. That is true. It's human nature. Nobody in this world is perfect. I have made mistakes and I have done things that no one will ever know about because it's just not out there in the public. They made a mistake that's visible for the world to see. However, it is never in the right of a white individual to accept an apology that is meant for Black people. Okay. It is not your role. It is not your job to say when and how Black people get over things. It's not right. And that probably was my tipping point was people coddling the situation and saying, oh, well, hating people is the end thing to do. I don't condone harassment and bullying and threatening people. Whoever was doing that, they took it too far and it overshadowed the individuals that were attempting to make their voices heard about things that were truly, truly harming them. So that in itself is a whole different issue. But you don't get to tell people who were hurt when and how they accept an apology. And that happens a lot, not just in this community, but it just happens a lot in society. And to see that happen in the community where people are saying, I accept your apology, the apology was never meant for you. And a lot of times people inherently accept apologies because they want to make themselves feel better for hurting a marginalized group. And that's never appropriate. That's not right. And also, there were people who were saying, well, they're not from the United States. There should be no expectation to know about Juneteenth. Y'all, my issue is don't run around screaming Black Lives Matter and you're not willing to learn about our history and our culture, because part of us mattering is knowing more about us. You don't get to pick and choose what you want to know about us in the moment. That's not right. That's not fair. People say, oh, well, they're from a different country. Well, then in that case, don't scream Black Lives Matter. Like, don't do that, because part of a Black Lives Mattering is their past, is their history, is their culture. So I don't want to hear that excuse. And then on top of that, Juneteenth had been screamed about, y'all, screamed about after George Floyd's death. It had been everywhere on the internet, everywhere. So I don't know, and I can't say for a fact that they did, because I don't know. I'm not them. I haven't spoke. I don't know them. But it just didn't sit well with me, and it also didn't sit well with me that people were saying from the United States, well, I didn't know what Juneteenth was until this year, or I didn't know what Juneteenth was until today. Like, how can you say that with your whole chest and be proud? That's the problem. That's the problem. And that's why I had said 3 months ago, well, not even 3 months ago, June, 2 months ago, that I didn't believe a lot of what was going on in this community, because saying Black Lives Matter and tweeting about it is nothing compared to your willingness to learn more about our history and our culture. And for those of y'all who are, and not y'all specifically, but those people who are in our community that are from the US screaming, oh, I didn't know about Juneteenth, and you screaming that with your whole chest, that in itself is a problem to me, because at the end of the day, our history is your history. Our fates are tied together. Our histories are tied together. You can't know US history without knowing Black history, but our society has built it where it's Black history is not as important. Black history is not taught. So you don't have to realize the connectivity between the two, but that's wholly wrong and wholly incorrect. The two are bound together. They don't function without each other. Just because society has taught you that they don't is not the truth. It's not reality. They function as one. So when I saw that, which I saw someone else say to me, you know, they saw that I left Twitter. Yeah, I didn't leave, but I'm taking a break because I can't voice what I'm saying now in 140 or 280 characters. I couldn't, and I wasn't going to waste the energy or the time doing that, because I didn't feel like it was worth it at that point. Because sometimes you get tired of saying the same things over and over and over and over again when people let it go through one ear and out the other. I can't believe that there were people who were saying, I didn't know about Juneteenth, or I didn't even know that was a thing. And then you go to their bios and Black Lives Matter is sitting in there. Like, to me, that makes no sense. It made no sense. So I got wholly frustrated with that. So when I saw the responses to that, I was pretty much done. I was done at that point. Because this cycle that I feel like I'm seeing right now is what I had a fear of when I made my video back in May or June, whenever I made it. This community has really got to do a lot of self-reflection and really, really want to make a change, because honestly, it's great to read books by Black authors. It's great to support Black authors. But if you feel like reading a book by a Black author is the only thing that you can do to make a change, and that you don't have to change yourself, or you don't have to do any self-reflection, or putting Black Lives Matter in your bio is going to change anything, you're so damn wrong. Like, that's not going to change anything. If you want to change your perspective of how you view one marginalized group, you have to be willing to learn as much as you can about them. You have to be willing to educate yourself. You've got to be willing to change yourself. So that's my long-winded thoughts about the live stream. I honestly, like, I don't want to say that I don't care, but part of me is kind of like, I don't have any expectations anymore, because why did we have all those conversations 2 months ago, and here we are back at the same spot that we were in, where people still are not getting it and people still aren't listening. You're not listening. You want to talk, and you're not listening. And sometimes too, I'm going to keep it 100. Sometimes too, people overtalk Black people in this community. Sometimes you don't always need to run to the rescue. Sometimes you need to pull back, and you need to listen, and you need to watch before you open up your mouth. because sometimes you're overstepping and you're doing too much and you're overshadowing the individuals that really need to be the ones talking. I saw people who were doing this, and it was like, your intentions are good, but you're still not listening. You need to listen first, because you can't learn unless you listen. And I know intentions are good, but to me sometimes it feels like an endless uphill battle. And I don't just deal with this here. I deal with these conversations too at my job. I sit on a committee for my job where I constantly talk about race. So this is not coming from just a point of booktube. This is coming from what's part of my job. Um, I hope that answers your question. I hope that makes sense. Um, I kind of figured that that question was coming. I'm not surprised that question was coming. Let's see, scrolling through. Yeah, you're right, Erica. Marginalized groups are constantly and consistently silenced by people. Yeah, yeah. And that's all marginalized groups, y'all. You know, you you gotta know the history and the culture. I can't say that enough. You do. You do. And it goes beyond Juneteenth being on social media everywhere. For me, it is about the fact that, you know, I keep going back to this. I keep, because to me it's super important, and I feel like that point negates the, oh well, you can't expect everybody to know about Juneteenth. Well, then I don't expect everybody to talk about Black Lives Mattering, because how can you say that and you know nothing about us? How can a life matter to you and you know nothing about it? Yeah, for me, cancel culture affects people of color disproportionately. That's why I have a huge thing with cancel culture, because it's easier for people to be willing to cancel a person of color than they will give a white person countless time. Like they'll give them the opportunity to continue to say make the same mistakes over. And we've seen it in this community, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of that, but we have seen it in this community where white people have been allowed to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. But if a black person does that, all of a sudden it's all hell breaks loose. Okay, I think. Yes, yes. When you know better, do better. Yes, you will. When you know better, you will do better naturally. And it is a process, y'all. I don't expect anybody to get don't take my perspectives as someone who means that everything's going to happen overnight. If it happens overnight, I'm it's suspect to me. I'm going to question you, because the type of slow burn change, and this is everybody, because even with black people, there's unlearning that has to happen with black people, and that takes time. It took me time to unlearn the things that had been ingrained in my system growing up. It's everybody. But when it comes to talking about race and white people specifically that want to change, it's a slow burn process. You're not gonna get it overnight. If you get it overnight, you ain't done nothing yet. I promise you, you have done absolutely nothing yet. You haven't really made a change. It is a very much so a slow burn process. So I don't expect people to get it right overnight. I expect people to make mistakes. However, I expect you to hold yourself accountable for the mistakes that you made, and not to tag on an excuse afterwards. I'm sorry, but there is no but. You just say, I'm sorry, I offended you. I'm going to do better. That's it. That's where the conversation needs to end right there. There doesn't need to be a trail where it is semicolon but comma. There is no buts or however, or it doesn't need to be that. It just needs to be an acknowledgement that you made a mistake. You're going to do better. And that's it. That's it. No excuses at that point. Yeah, that's the point. When you make mistakes too, you have to understand that the other person doesn't have to accept your apology automatically. That's not the way that that works. If I have offended someone, and I have done some things that have hurt people's feelings because I'm far from perfect. I have said things, I have done things that have hurt people. But I have been in positions where I've had to acknowledge the mistakes I've made and I've said sorry. And I've had people say to me, I can't accept your apology right now. And that's within their right. And that's okay. And that goes back to that conversation where I'm saying, like, it's not for white people to accept the apologies of Black people. And you don't get to determine when we accept those apologies because it is within our right to say, I don't accept your apology right now. That is okay. There's nothing wrong with that because if you've hurt someone, if you've offended someone, who are you to then turn around and say, well, you have to accept my apology? You don't get to dictate that. Hey, Jerry. Okay. Now that we have spent a good bit of time talking about that, is everyone okay if we go back to the other questions? I know I got deep in there. Okay. So, another question. Um, what's one book you would like everyone to read? I don't even know if I don't know if I would give one. Okay, I'm gonna give two. I'm gonna give two. The first one I would definitely say The Deep by River Solomon because everyone should just read that book. I instantaneously fell in love with that book. And then also Anger is a Gift. I think a few of y'all have actually read Anger is a Gift since I've been talking about it. And it oh gosh, it's a powerful book. It made me cry while I was driving, like break down on the interstate crying. It's crazy. Hey Tasha, how are you? Not you late as usual. You sound like me. I try to be on time, but you know, with the child, that's I gotta leave like 40 minutes ahead of time to be on time. Okay, another question. If you could go anywhere, where would it be? You know, that's a tough question too. Um, okay, so I don't know how many people knew that, but my dad is from England. Um and his mom and his father are from Jamaica. So I've traveled a little bit because of family living all over the place. One place I haven't been that I would like to visit pre-COVID would have been Italy. Um, I don't know. I just would love to go to Italy. You'll be squid. But you know, don't be scared. I already told you. You have us for moral support. Don't don't feel bad. Oh wait, hold on. I need to read Anger is a Gift. I have it, but after hearing, don't be afraid. I feel like now that I've told people that it had such an emotional, like an emotional thing with Anger is a Gift, now everyone's afraid to read it. Don't be afraid to read it. Ooh, Egypt. Yes. Okay. Next question. How do you organize and prioritize things? Okay, so this was a question because, and I remember the second part of this question, I just didn't write it down. Y'all got me talking so much. I haven't been drinking my drink, which is a problem. Um, so the second part of that question is how do I manage what I do working booktube, and I'm a full-time single parent. Um, List, which is I used to hate doing this, but honestly, at the top of my week, let's say Sunday night, Monday morning, I make a list of everything that I need to get done that week, and then I break it up day by day. And honestly, that's how I get stuff done. It is the weirdest thing. I also have started using timers. So I'll set like a 45-minute timer and put my phone down, and I just work within that 45 minutes, and then I allow myself like a 15-minute break to, do whatever, scroll on the internet. Like I try to have some form of balance. So especially with me like working a lot from home now, I don't like being in front of a computer screen that much. I really, because I wasn't like that when I was physically working. So it's an adjustment for me, and it's hard. Um, but I try to give myself some time to just kind of relax. And then as far as baby girl, like when I pick her up from daycare, I go dark. So nobody really hears from me because that's our time together. So I make sure I prioritize that. And then when she goes to sleep is usually my time to get a lot of other stuff done. Unless I'm just like, I'm done for the night and I end up going to sleep. So lists and using a timer, and I need a planner because a planner usually helps me as well. But I used to have a lot of responsibilities at work. So I had to, that's where the list thing came from, because I would be working with multiple agencies outside of my location doing outreach. And I had to keep all that stuff in order. When you have to email and meet with and set up meetings, and I wasn't only working like within my location, I was working, doing some stuff with like the state at large. So I had a lot of responsibilities, and now I feel like I don't have any responsibilities. So the list, the planner, and the timer. The timer is more new to since COVID, but it helps. Give me more details about this. You mean the conversations about whether someone should be writing, like, should a white author write a black character? That is that because I have strong feelings about that. But let me know if that's what you mean. Take a drink. I will. Okay. Next question. Okay. Is there an author that you will automatically read without even having a synopsis because you love and trust their writing so much? Jason Reynolds. Easiest question that I've been asked all night. Tasha and I were actually laughing about this on Twitter when it was released um that he was coming out with an adult book. Neither one of us read the synopsis, but we just knew that we were going to pre-order it because it's Jason. Why not? Hey Jesse, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, he is king. Tasha and I fight over Jason Reynolds. I met him. Tam, yeah. I met him. I can't remember whether it was January or February. I put that picture in a Juneteenth video that I filmed. Um, and y'all, I'm still kind of speechless because he's such an amazing human in person. And he's taller than what he appears to be. I always feel like he photographs short, but he's actually taller, and he's shy. So very, very interesting combination. So when we took that picture, it actually took like my coworker asking him if he would be willing to take a picture with me. And then he was like, "Why didn't you just ask me yourself?" And I was like, "Well, because I'm shy." That's a lie. I'm not shy. I'm I was like, "No, I just didn't want to talk to him." And he was like, "Well, I'm shy too." But he's a really, really nice guy. But he is king. Definitely. Okay. exactly a straight person writing gay characters. I probably have a very biased. I have strong opinions by this, and I'm not saying that my opinion about this is end all be all because I know some people feel like it can be well done. Here's the thing. There are some experiences that you just can't write about, okay? I don't think that it is possible for some people to write about experiences that they've never had authentically. I think that's a very, very difficult thing to do. But I have seen people who have written books that have been outside of their race, sexuality, gender identity, religion, whatever, but they have consulted a lot of people to write those books and they've hired sensitivity readers. So for me, I think it is strongly about the context of the book because I have seen it done, not a lot, but I have seen it done well, but I don't think that it can often be done well, if that even makes sense. I think it's hard for a white author to write about um, like Black Lives Mattering from the perspective of someone who's experienced police brutality. I think that just, I don't care how many people you talk to, like, that's just something that you would have to experience. Um, so it's kind of, that's one where it's like, it's iffy. It's iffy because I think, what is her first name? Oh, I think her last name is Sue Park. I think the book she just came out with or is coming out is called Lotus Prairie. And I think that she wrote out of her own personal experience. She's a highly, highly, highly regarded children's author. And she's written out of her experience before, but she always does a lot of research and she always hires sensitivity readers. So, like, that's someone off the top of my head that I can think of. Um, but I don't know. For me, I think I look at it as like a case by case basis, to be honest with you. Mm, okay, I can see that. I can see that. Linda Sue Park. Thank you, Kim. Y'all are coming through with the names today. I'm horrible with names, if y'all can't tell. When I do wrap ups, I'm horrible. All right, next. Okay. What is a book coming out in the next few months, I guess, that I'm supposed to be excited about? I wrote that down wrong. I wrote these down very, very quickly. Um, there are so many coming out of the Brooklyn Five, I believe. If somebody gets to the title before me, let me know because I'm going to take a second and look it up. I think it's Punching the Air, and I don't want to give y'all the title. Yeah, Punching the Air. That is one that I'm definitely looking forward to reading. I think Jason Drummer books is not coming out this year. Legend Born looked really, really nice. So I was interested in reading that one. I have a laundry list, y'all. So me trying to pick one book that I'm excited about coming out in the next like 4 months is daggone near like impossible. Am I frozen? Somebody tell me. Someone said I'm frozen. I don't think I am. Okay. Next question. Okay, so Deidre, you can see me, right? Okay. Oh, 10 seconds. All right. I was like, wait, am I frozen? Okay. Next question. Um, let's see here. Is your channel part of your job? No. Does my job know that I have a YouTube channel? Yes. Do we keep the two separate? Yes, which is why I never make any reference to where I work. I never say anything about where I work. Because I like to keep the two separate. Any opinions that I have or anything that I say, of course, is coming straight from me. I think anybody that does booktube, for the most part, everybody keeps their stuff separate. I do mention a lot about being a librarian because I think that this is a great way for me to personally use my platform to bring awareness to librarianship, just because I hear so much crap about libraries, y'all. I hear so much crap about libraries about like how they're like obsolete, they're not important anymore, that um that they don't have good selections. And I think I think that's probably why I started talking about it a lot, because I would hear people say like, "Oh, I don't use the library," or like, "My library doesn't have anything." And what a lot of people don't realize is like your library having materials is tied to funding. They're public libraries, meaning that they're paid for unless it's a private library. But most libraries that people are visiting, where you get your library card for free, is a public institution. So that means that they're getting money from taxes. And your county governments or your state governments are determining how much money is allotted to your libraries. If they don't feel like your library is important, if you don't have people advocating and saying, I love my library, I use my library, I want my tax money to go to my library, you're never going to have stuff. It is up to us as the people who use um libraries to determine what gets purchased. And, libraries go through a lot of rough periods where they really, really have to determine how they're going to work their budgets. I'm blessed enough to work in a library system that has a great budget, but I know that that's not a reality for everybody. And a lot of people have to fight to get funding, especially in smaller counties and smaller towns where not as much tax money is collected. Like, it's tough. So when I kind of hear people disrespecting libraries or people like disregarding libraries, it kind of frustrates me, because libraries also are not just institutions to check out books. I said this earlier. Some of us are like the pillars of our community. Like, our communities rely on us for so much. My job, I deal with a lot of workforce development. And I talk about this a lot because it's super important to my community. When I tell you that I help people with their resumes, I help people apply for jobs, I've helped people find housing, I've helped people get on food stamps. Like, it becomes almost like social services. It's extremely important. We are the key when it comes to working with schools on how to improve literacy in kids, and how to make reading a normality. Like, I I'm very passionate about it, but to keep it professional, because I am myself on here, and I do insert a lot of my own personal opinions. So to keep it professional, no, like, I keep the two separate, but I do bring in my personal thoughts and experiences being a librarian into this channel. That way people will feel more encouraged to use your libraries, which is the reason why I only do library hauls on my channel. I don't Somebody noticed it, because somebody did comment and say, wow, normalizing, and there's nothing wrong with doing book hauls, because I do get books, I do purchase books, but my book hauls are very much so within my vlogs. So I try to normalize getting books and hauling from the library, because everybody's not necessarily in a financial place to haul books even the way that I do. Even though it's sometimes like I'm strapped for money, but there are people who are in worse situations than me that can't even afford to buy books on a monthly basis. And I feel like that's why your library is there to create that that resource, for you to be able to get stuff when maybe you can't do it like, I can't afford, honestly, like, being honest with y'all, I can't afford to buy an adult new release hardcover. Like, no lie, that 28 to 30 something dollars is formula and diapers and wipes. Not even formula and diapers and wipes. I mean, if you want me to keep it 100, that $28 is a canister of formula for a week. So I get it. And coming from someone who didn't grow up with a lot of money, who grew up in a single parent household, the libraries were my sanctuary where I was able to read and get books when my mom couldn't afford to buy me books. So I do that to encourage people who may see us doing book calls and they like, dang, like I can't even afford to do that. The library is always there. You can haul books from the library and they're for free. You don't have to, if you pay taxes, guess what? Use your library. Please use your library. Please use it. Yes, yes. That hardcover price hurts my feelings. I went to go look at a hardcover adult book that I wanted, and I saw the price tag on that, and I was like, nah, bro, I'm just not gonna get it. I'll wait till the library gets the ebook or e-audio book because I'm not gonna pay for it. I can't. I cannot. Yes, most voting polls are held at libraries. Now, some libraries are not, they are very strict about um, how they get involved in politics. They don't. So they'll do stuff like have voting polls, or they will do like registered to vote, but they keep away from the bipartisan aspect of politics because we work with both in order to get funding. We don't. There is no choosing sides. Now, do we individually have? Do we have our personal affiliation? Yes, we do, but we don't. We don't necessarily bring that into work. I love seeing all these comments about how people love their libraries. That's good, y'all. That makes my heart sing, to be honest with you, because libraries do get they get a lot of slack. They really, really do. They get a lot of slack. Okay, I think I saw a question in here about, where is it? It was a question about where, oh, here it is. Okay. Have you set goals for your channel for the next year, 2 years, etc.? No. Um, I'm not bad at goal setting, but um, sometimes it's hard for me in this sense right here in BookTube to think about where I want to be in a year or two because I have so many things that I want to do for my daughter and for myself personally in a year or two. So those goals in my personal life, which I don't really talk about because it's just some things that I do keep private. There are things that I want to do professionally and for the two of us in the next 2 years that I think I'm more focused on. So BookTube is I love being a part of this community. I love being around people who love to read because that means, hey, I mean, who doesn't? But I think of this more so on a month to month basis than I do on a yearly basis. So I would think about like, sometime in August, I'll start thinking about, okay, well, what are my goals and my plans for September? Like, where do I want to see myself by the end of September? We do four. So we do four sales with our friends in the library. We do one for each season. So spring, summer, fall, and winter. Of course, with I don't know how that's going to work anymore because with COVID popping up, we're not taking book donations because we just don't know. It's just kind of hard because we're most libraries right now are going through the process where they're quarantining books before they go back into circulation. So just to quarantine library materials is hard enough, and to throw donations into that process, it'd be too much. So I don't know what our sales will look like. I'm sure they have a lot of stuff like backlog stuff that they'd be willing to sell, but I don't know when that would even I don't know when that would happen, y'all. I don't know what a lot of libraries are going to look like, for the next year or so because it's just so hard to put people in a position, especially in smaller buildings, to push people to social distance. And, if we require people to wear a mask in the building, we want to, especially in some of our lower economic areas, we want to make sure that we're providing them with masks before they, it's a lot of factors. I don't know. I don't know. I think libraries are super important right now, but it's it's new for us too because we're so used to navigating helping our communities like in front facing, meaning that we're actually working with people every single day and we're working in person. And now to not have to do that, it's a very, very strange feeling. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know. Yeah, see, some libraries are opening, but I think it really is depending upon the county and the state that you're in. For us, we have drive-throughs. So some of our libraries have drive-throughs. So those are open right now, but um, other than that, nope, not a thing, not a thing. All right, another question. I probably should take a drink. According to Deidre, in between, I need to take a drink. Okay. Is there a particular genre you didn't used to read, but now read and enjoy? Romance. um, I think I had a very skewed perspective of romance. I had a very awful perspective of romance. But lately I've been reading romance and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Maybe that's because I'm alone. That could be it too. That's probably why. Honestly, seriously, I started I started reading a lot more romance when I became single. And it's a comfort area now. Just crazy. The question is open. How is your area doing with COVID? Horrible. My governor is trash. The trash governor. I don't care what anybody says. He is trash. So if you're willing to open up stadiums right now, like you're trash. That's all I have to say. Especially when your numbers are skyrocketing every single day. Come on, like make it make sense. Okay. Um, most stressful part of being a booktuber. Um, coming up with new content outside of, and it's so crazy because the staple videos I feel like this is my in in my opinion are like wrap ups, TBRs. My wrap ups and my TBRs always are like, you know, big things for the community, just for people who watch my channel. But coming up with stuff outside of that, outside of tags, it can be challenging because a lot of times you feel like it's all been done. It hasn't all been done, but sometimes you feel like it's all been done. So you're like, dang, that it pushes you to become super creative. And sometimes that can be kind of stressful because you keep thinking like, well, what can I do to keep pushing the limit of my creativity? How can I do something that's completely out of the box that I haven't seen before? And when the one video that I did, I feel like I pushed myself and really learned a lot was that Black Mermaid and Black Siren vlog. I definitely pushed the envelope for that for me personally because I didn't know if anybody had really done that before. Um, and it ended up not being just about the creativity. That ended up being a situation where there was a lot of self-reflection and a lot of learning that went on. So yeah, the creative part, keeping your content fresh, that can be stressful. That can be stressful because then you don't want your viewers to get tired of seeing the same thing But then you're like, but what can I do that hasn't been done already? Hold on. I saw a question. Listen, hold on. Where are you at? I need to find your where is your comment? Where is it? 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 Because you are asking all there you go. Okay. Listen, Rebecca Sweet Music is asking all the tough questions. all of all of the tough questions. Um, what are your thoughts on Carol Anderson? Um, I oh gosh. Okay. I read White Rage by Carol Anderson, and I have the YA version, We Are Not Yet Equal, of that book. Um, Intelligent, brilliant woman. I mean, holy crap. I don't think White Rage is super accessible though. I think White Rage is a book, and I haven't read anything else by Carol Anderson, so I can't speak necessarily on anything else that she's written. But I know when I read White Rage, I enjoyed it, but it was stuff that I either have grown up learning, it was conversations that I've had, it was stuff that I was used to seeing. And I think that sometimes a book like that can be overwhelming to a person that has never really had any historical context. I know people were reading it and they were like, I had no idea. Like, my history teachers pretty much screwed me over. And yes and no, you have to understand it's cyclical. So, yes, it may seem like you should blame your history teachers. And this is a tangent, but I just want to add this one. It may seem like a good point to blame your history teachers, but you have to learn or understand that that's what your history teachers were taught. So it essentially, it's just a cycle. It is a cycle. It is a cycle. It just is a continuous cycle. So at this point, we don't really know who to point fingers at, except maybe just our school systems in general and what they teach and what they put an emphasis on. But I think it should be required reading, but it needs to be required reading in adjacent to Black history being woven into US history, because you can't have US history without Black history. I, I keep going back to that. Like, I don't know how that's a thing. I don't know why that seems to be a thing. Um, I why we are taught to separate the two, because literally, like, you can't separate the two. They definitely need to be woven together, but I think it needs to be taught kind of like adjacent. I think it needs to be hand in hand. Once Black history is sufficiently and adequately woven into just general US history courses, then I think White Rage wouldn't be such a mind boggling and inaccessible book to people. I think that, yeah, I agree. You can still enjoy it. I think it is an enjoyable book for people. You learn a lot, um, but it can be a lot for someone who's never read anything about that. And it can be a lot emotionally and mentally to feel like your entire history has been a lie. That can be kind of stressful. It's like finding out your entire identity is trash. But yes. Chelsea. Not you binge the whole playlist. The whole playlist. You see, my vlogs have changed though. They used to be kind of on the short end. They were, I mean, not short end. I mean, we're talking about like 30 minutes. And then all of a sudden, COVID did that, because now the vlogs are like an hour. And then it was so funny when we went live. Not live. We did a premiere with last week's vlog, and it was so heartwarming for viewers to say, "Oh, Ashley, it's only 40 minutes." That was really, really fun. That was fun. Oh, thanks, Liv. I appreciate it, love. Yes, if y'all listen, y'all should check out Liv and Chelsea's channel. I was avid watchers. I have been avid watchers of them for a minute. Let's see. Oh, wait, nope, that wasn't the question. There was a question I was looking for. Oh, here it is. Okay. Where do you go to for book recommendations, or who? Do you have a BookTube book twin? That's a really, really good question, Melissa. So do I have a BookTube book twin? No. Um, I read. Um, I come at it from the library side. That's probably where the recommendations come from. Having conversations with other librarians is a huge place where I get my recommendations. On BookTube, I watch a lot of people who don't even realize that I watch them because I'm a silent watcher. I said I need to be better about that. I'm trying to. It'll get there, but I watch quite a few. I think I am subscribed to anywhere in between 5 to 600 booktubers who probably don't even know that I'm subscribed to their channel or that I watch their channel. Because there's people that I'm not subscribed to, and I still watch their content as well. But I don't watch it as much, so I don't want to mess up their analytics. But now I want to say I have a twin. Because you know what? I don't want to say I have a twin. They'd be like, "Why that girl say that I was her twin?" I don't want to put myself out there like that. All right, another question. Um, like I've talked about that. What's a genre that you haven't explored much yet? Science fiction, and more specifically, Black speculative fiction. And I get any recommendations in that area from Injiri from Onyx Pages, hands down. I have so much more to learn. So yeah, I specifically I would think like just generally in that area is because there's not really much that I won't read or I'm not willing to read because once again this kind of goes back to the job. I can't not be willing to read anything. Doesn't even have to like it, but I have to educate myself. Yes, that is on my it's in my Libby account right now. Yes, 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 she is. She definitely is. Okay, here goes a really good one. Um, favorite graphic novel of all time. Favorite manga of all time. Okay, so I can't just choose one. I just there's no way. Manga, I have two. I feel like I talk about them so much. Y'all are probably gonna be sick of me. Nana, which a couple people have picked up, which I'm happy to see more people reading Nana. And Food Wars, which is I think just because I'm a foodie, I like to eat, so I really like the competition aspect of it. Um, graphic novel, graphic novel, I would have to say Aya. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that one. I think it was originally written in French. Um, so I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that one. And I also make a distinguish like I distinguish between comics and graphic novels because they're two different things. I know we kind of universally like on BookTube we say like graphic novel for everything, but but y'all, but they're not the same thing. I don't feel like they're the same thing. Some people may disagree with me, but I don't think that they're the same thing. Um, so I would say that for graphic novel. If I had to go with comic, and I'm looking over in that direction because I'm looking at my shelf right now. Fables is a really good one. I loved Lock and Key. I think the Netflix show is trash because Lock and Key is so it's so gory and dark, and I think that Netflix kind of did their own jam with that, and it it wasn't good. Um of course, I mean everybody loves Saga, so I don't feel like, and I don't, not that I don't like Saga, but I feel like everybody loves Saga. But I would definitely say Fables, Lock and Key, um, Chew, which I don't know how many people have read Chew. Chew is a really good one. The Woods is a really, really good sci-fi one. Honestly, Paper Girls is great. Anything by Brian K. Vaughan, who is the writer of Saga. Like if you're interested, I would definitely check out Brian K. Vaughan's other stuff. Um, he had the what's it on Hulu? The Runaways. That's Brian K. Vaughan's work. Um, I read DC and Marvel. I'm more of a DC girl, but I started reading. I don't know if y'all have seen it, but on my channel, like I started reading Marvel, um, like issue by issue based on the year, and I'm stuck. I'm still stuck. I'm still stuck in 1964. But reading some of those first initial issues from like 63, 62, 63, and 64 has been like super, super intriguing. Uh, um, Let me think. I'm trying to think of some other stuff. DC favorite character, probably hands down Harley Quinn. Um, if we were going in the conversation of Batman versus Superman, Batman is trash. He doesn't have any real superpowers. He just has money. So Superman. But yeah, I think if we were talking about comics, I think that would kind of be like that would be my that would be my thing. Yeah, yeah. Favorites from DC. Definitely Wonder Woman, um, Harley Quinn, Superman. If I had to say, those would probably be my three. If I had to come up with like a top three. Yo, Batman is trash. Like I don't care what y'all say. Batman has no. Think about it. Think about it. Everybody in the DC universe has literal powers. Powers now. Superpowers. What superpower does Batman have? He doesn't have one. Batman just has money. Money and trauma. Like that's it. That's that mm-mm. No. I do think that Marvel produces better movies than DC though. Marvel has the definitely has the market on the movie scene. DC is really truly only running with Wonder Woman, like that's been their token, and Aquaman. Aquaman was good, and I think because they changed. If you read like DC Comics, Aquaman is not Jason Momoa. Okay, Aquaman is this awkward, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy that really gets ratted on because he talks to fish. He's not really the end all be all when it comes to like DC superheroes, but I think because they kind of like they changed his style. He was like gritty, hardcore. I mean, it was Jason Momoa. I mean, he's fine as hell. So it was like, you know, that movie turned out good, but it wasn't a true characterization of Aquaman. So, I kind of look at the two as separate, but of course, Wonder Woman, um, true to nature. But DC is not great at producing movies at all. Now, DC animated, I don't know why I let y'all get me down this train. But I'm a comic junkie though on the low. I always feel like, I don't want to be like the comic junkie on boots on book people like that. But truly and honestly, like DC does a better job at their animated films. Their animated films are they're A1, but they can't live action is just not their place. It'll never happen. It's never gonna be a thing for DC. Is Iron Man also no, Iron Man is funny, and that's Marvel. Yes, he is. He's dry. He's so dry. And I was so pissed at the Batman versus Superman movie because in no real world will that ever have happened. Like, Batman, there's no way. We're talking about a being from another planet. There's no way that Batman, no, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way. Yes, he literally has money, a car, and trauma. I mean, I know he has money. But listen. With Marvel, it's different. So at least Iron Man has a personality, okay? Iron Man has a personality. Batman's just dry. He's dry. I just, I don't understand the purpose of Batman. Iron Man, I feel like is essential to the crew. He's essential to the Avengers. Batman is not essential to the Justice League at all. Yes, that too. DC definitely has better TV shows. Not everybody is coming for me saying isn't Iron Man the same deal. That's all right, y'all. That is all right. That is all right. I just don't like Batman. How about that? I'm just salty about Batman. I have a personal vendetta. I don't like him. But see, here's the thing about it though. Like DC does need to reboot, but they've already you know this, Margaret. Like it seems like that's all they do now, and it's so frustrating. It's like I don't know, as much as I love DC and as much as I like go hard for DC, their continuity is horrible. Their content, like there was, they had issues even in the beginning with Wonder Woman and Teen Titans. And I can't remember exactly what happened, like what it was surrounding, but it was like somehow the Teen Titans and Wonder Woman ended up on page, and time wise, it couldn't have even been possible because I think someone else picked it up and they forgot the continuity. It just, DC just has no gifts with their continuity, and that's why they always have to keep rebooting their lines. And they keep saying is to make it more accessible for readers, but then a lot of the comics just end up being like not good. Like I was trying to get through DC's New 52 and then I couldn't do that. And then they just rebooted to whatever this new line that they have out. I couldn't even tell y'all. I couldn't even tell y'all. Can't believe because he's a trash character. Yes, him and Iron Man, y'all called me straight out on that, and that's fine. But listen, but of course, Dark Knight, but it wasn't for Batman. I didn't like Dark Knight because of Batman. I like Dark Knight because of the Joker. Like, if you, you know what I'm saying? Like that. Mm-mm. Okay. Does anybody have any other comic related? Because I can go on for ages about comics. Really, to be honest with you. Yeah, I agree. I agree. They definitely went in with no plan. I want to see it so badly, and I was so hesitant and scared because once Heath Ledger, he just was a hell of a Joker. And I've always been so hesitant about seeing anybody else play that role, but I heard it was bomb. I heard it was so good. I heard it was really, really good. Let's see. All right, let's do another question. Oh, hold on, Melissa. I'm about to get to your statement in a second. I just thought, who's your favorite Marvel character? Ooh, Thor. Personality. I like Thor a lot, to be honest. And I do, yeah, I like Iron Man too, but I feel like a lot of times I base Iron Man off of What's the actor's name? I feel like the movie portrayal of him is what makes me like Iron Man so much. I hate Squirrel Girl. I just wanted to tell you that. I hate Squirrel Girl. Oh, I like Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. She is bomb. When G. Willow Wilson wrote her for 10 volumes, and I'm so pissed that it ends. But G. Willow Wilson's portrayal of Miss Marvel as Kamala Khan is chef's kiss. Oh my God. Oh my, I need to do a reread. It is so daggone good. Tammy, don't come for me. Yes, Thor. Yes, Thor. Thor. Not gonna be Spider-Man. I'll tell you that much. If you read Spider-Man, Spider-Man is so iconic to people. I wish people would go back and read Spider-Man from 1962 and 1963. Just if you can get Marvel Unlimited and do it. It's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. Next question. Do you like to read classics? Um, Actively, if I was being completely honest, it's not that I don't like classics, it's that I think that classics get pushed on us at such a young age and we're not ready to read them. So a lot of adult Americans, I'm just speaking from the American perspective, we end up not liking um classics because we're exposed to them, I think, too young. Like I read Romeo and Juliet um in 8th grade. And there's no way I could have really understood everything in Romeo and Juliet at the age. And I was only 12 in 8th grade. Yeah, I was 12 in 8th grade. I was always younger. So reading Romeo and Juliet at 12 was kind of like, like, it was, I think it was a bit much. And I think I was reading The Great Gatsby by the time I was in like 9th grade. I was 13. So I have a very interesting relationship with classics. I think I understand classics now. Do I need to pick them up more? Yes, I do. Are there some classics that I've read more than others, some that I enjoy more than others? Yes. Classics also are, you take into consideration the time in which they were written. Sometimes the content is a little hard to make it through. I'm currently reading The Count of Monte Cristo with a huge group of people on Discord, and that has been an enjoyable read. And Deidre has been talking to me about The Black Count, which she's enjoyed reading. So yes and no. I'm going to answer that yes and no. I think that I need to do better about reading classics. I think there's some weird relationships that I have with classics. I don't even know if I could tell y'all. I'm good at reading modern classics, but mm-hmm. Like I don't know. Yeah, but Jason Reynolds made a good point about this, and I think it's why, and I can only speak from my perspective sometimes, why kids end up having such a hard relationship with reading, why they end up having such a hard relationship with reading classics, is because we're forced to read books that we're not engaged with, and we're seeing characters that do not look like us. Like, what do I look like asking a Black boy to read a book titled Moby Dick about a man on a boat chasing a whale when this kid may not have ever seen a boat or a whale in his entire life? Like, nobody can relate to that. Nobody wants to read that. I think that classics are not accessible to the age groups that we're pushing them on. I think there's ways to incorporate modern literature into classrooms and promote literacy without forcing kids to read stuff like Moby Dick when they're 13 years old. Nobody wants to read that. And it kills. And this is right, Wendy. You're absolutely right. In librarianship, it is, I don't know if we have a specific term for it, but we have seen where kids who are active readers who love to read end up, in essence, they lock themselves down and they will not read at all. And then they end up becoming reluctant readers and falling behind because they have been forced to read books that they don't enjoy and forced to analyze books that they don't feel comfortable doing so. And it builds a very negative relationship with reading. It I saw a kid, I actually watched it happen, and I think it was probably the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen, talking to his mom, where he loved to read. I mean, actively loved to read, and it ended up being a bad situation because he had a teacher that was forcing him to read stuff that he didn't like. The teacher didn't believe that he was on the reading level that he was on, and he ended up actually losing skills that he had prior to it because of just, mm. Okay, see, look, I love Dracula. Dracula was a really, really good classic. I think it was just accessible. It was easy to read. But see, I read Dracula 2 for the first time when I was like 21 years old, 20, 21 years old. So, I mean, it's just different. I didn't either. I read of Mice and Men in high school and was traumatized. Traumatized. And I don't, to this day, I do not like John Steinbeck. I don't. And I feel like it's not because of him. I think it's because I read that and I never wanted to pick up anything else by him at all. Yeah, see, and that's yes, yes, yes. That's the point I was trying to make, is that kids only get exposed to white classics, and that breeds reading behaviors that you even see in our community now, which is so crazy because people are trained to read in certain ways, that's who they become as readers, and then you have to break that trend, you have to break that cycle. So I think too, like, we tell people read diversely, and yes, you need to read diversely, but you also have to train yourself to learn. You have to seek that knowledge. Something we used to say when I pledged, gotta seek knowledge. Listen, my state is all types of screwed up. All types of screwed up. Okay? All types of screwed up. I didn't really um enjoy English until I got to my junior year. And I'll never forget, I had this teacher by the name of Mr. Perry. And he was, when I made my annotating video, I had referenced a teacher that was him. Like, he was very much, he was just an awesome teacher, and he taught modern classics in addition to some, like old school classics, but he also taught with a lot of modern classics. Yes, this is the book that I was talking about that Deidre was telling me about. Going through. Okay. Oh, Twain. Mark Twain. Won't even get into Mr. Twain. All right. Another question, which is I that was the tough. That has to do with more race and yeah. Here goes a good one. What do you think would help the US improve its literacy rate and develop a culture of reading? Well, I'm sure people in the US know we do education state by state. Damn, sometimes I feel like we do education county by county, if you want to be honest. And a state can have, I think my state easily has 40 plus counties. I can only imagine what bigger states, what their county count is like. Um, I can't speak from this perspective 100% education wise because I'm not a teacher. I can speak from this experience as a librarian. And one thing that we always tell our parents is that there is no set time to start reading to your child. I was reading to baby girl when she was still in my womb. Like, I was reading her picture books then. Could she see anything? No. But she was hearing my voice and she was hearing words. I don't know the exact data, so I may get this wrong. But I think it's you learn 90% of all the words that you'll ever know by the time you're age 5. Okay. If your child is not reading, I believe, at a certain level by second or third grade, it screws them up. I know there are teachers who can speak to this better. I'm sure Liv can speak better to because Liv is a teacher. Um, but what we try to tell parents is that read to your child, even if you think they don't understand, even if you think they're not paying attention, because they can still hear. And if that behavior is normalized, reading to your child 20 minutes a night, it's hard. I'm a parent and I expect, oh, that's not too hard. It is hard. It's hard as a parent reading to your child every night for 20 minutes because life happens. But normalizing that culture of reading, having your children see you read, like baby girl sees me read, so she is interested in books and she has no idea what they are, but she can pick at 10 months, she can pick a book off of my shelf or off of her shelf and she can flip through the pages. She doesn't know at 10 months what it means, but she knows that she sees mom doing it. And she knows that it's something that she has fun doing when her and mom do it together. So it's a behavior that's normalized. When it's not normalized, what ends up happening is you have kids who go to school playing catch up. So um, we see a lot of kids in the community that I work in now, or kids who are not on their reading level. And that leads, in my opinion, to other issues, especially when you have stuff like having kids read out loud in class and they're not on that reading level, or kids are being given books that they don't see themselves in, they're not interested. There's so much that I don't even know if I can truly answer that question because we don't have a universal system. I don't know what educational systems are like in other countries, or I think I always look at Europe as a standard. I don't know what could ever truly be done because we don't make decisions as a country. And that, I mean, that's all political, state rights versus federal rights. Like they're just it's so much, y'all, that our framework kind of almost sets us up for failure. Same thing that you see with COVID right now, because every state can kind of make their own decisions, which I can get about certain things, but it's like because states have so much autonomy from the federal government, sometimes it creates issues. So what my state does in terms of education and literacy, every other state is not going to do that because every state has their own standards. I mean, you have different standards by state. So our kids technically are not even learning the same things. So I I don't know. I really don't know. I think the best thing that we can do is teach parents the importance of literacy. As a librarian, we do. We're very big on story times. We're very big on making sure that when parents come in our doors, they're always walking out with books because we're trying to teach them that reading to your child every single night will set them up for a better future. And that's what we're trying to do. But I don't know what we can do universally because decisions are not made universally. They're made so individualized. It is tough, man. Our education system is I can get into a whole big wormhole when it is related to education. Going through the comments. Yes, Lynn, please. Good night. Good night. Good night. 3:15. As problematic as it is, Romeo and Juliet. be honest. I think I've read Hamlet as well, but I think I've read Hamlet and Othello as well, but yeah, Romeo and Juliet. Ooh, yeah, I read A Brave New World. I read Animal Farm in high school, but I read A Brave New World for the first time as an adult, and talk about a book that was kind of ahead of its time. Yes. See, I wanna do that too with baby girl, listening to audiobooks. And I talked about this a little bit in that audiobook video where I was like, audiobooks should always be counted as reading because they're great for kids, especially kids who are reluctant readers. It takes away that stigma of being a reluctant reader. And it's often used a lot for kids who have dyslexia. It helps them follow along with the book. And audiobooks are a great family experience. Like the car rides, baby girl listens to audiobooks now. She just doesn't know it. Yes, yes, you're right, Liv. Like even teacher to teacher. Like there's no, I mean, if we get into the nitty-gritty, it's like teaching varies from teacher to teacher. It varies district to district, it varies county to county. And then I mean, we're not gonna even talk about the state. So I I don't even know. Yeah, I do. I think sometimes too, um it does depend upon the child. I know I work with someone, him and his wife are both avid readers. Everybody reads, and they still had a child that ended up being behind. He ended up being a reluctant reader. But I think we also need to prepare parents for what to do when they have kids that are reluctant readers and not to stop or quit because their child is a reluctant reader. Sometimes it's navigating what book or what genre is appropriate for that child. I The reason why I'm also a comic book junkie is because I use comic books as a gateway for some of my kids. I have a lot of boys who come in and they're like, I hate reading, reading is not cool. But as soon as I throw a comic book at them, they're like, wait, hold on, like this counts as reading, and it's a gateway. Comic books are also a great transition for kids who are having trouble moving from picture books to chapter books. We know, of course, we don't talk about that a lot here necessarily on booktube because I don't think it's necessarily a relevant conversation. I don't know how many people would really be interested in hearing it, but comic books are good for kids who are used to seeing pictures and words but are not ready to move to chapter books that have no pictures. So now on the market, you do see a lot of chapter books. Um, I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Geronimo Stilton, but that's a good example for kids who had trouble focusing on reading because there's so much going on the page. For me, the first time that I read Geronimo Stilton, it was sensory overload for me. I couldn't do it, but for a kid who had a lot of trouble focusing that was trying to transition from a picture book to a chapter book, it was perfect. It was beautiful. So I think too, like encouraging parents and educating parents that there is a likelihood that no matter how much you read, you still may have a child that's behind or maybe a reluctant reader or just struggles a little bit more than other kids. But there are tactics and tools to use to help that child grow and still appreciate reading. I don't know. Yep. And this to me is a problem because it hurts our kids when they go to college. You'll see in a lot of towns or a lot of areas where kids are valedictorians, salutatorians, whatever, top of their class. They get to college and it's a done deal because they can't keep up, which is why you see kids who achieve so well academically in high school, get to college, and they can't take the pressure because our kids are not taught the same way at all. The level, and honestly, Y'all need to read the book. I need to recheck it out, but I started reading it, The Color of Law, which does a lot of looking at gerrymandering and redlining and how even county lines are drawn and how funding is given to certain counties, which then affects school districts. And then that affects what type of teachers you're able to hire. That affects what type of books you're able to provide. So, what looks like academically and a school that's academically challenging in one area is not the same in another. I work in between two high schools, one that's predominantly Black and one that's predominantly white. And when I say in between, I'm literally saying to you, they're probably 7 minutes apart from each other. The school that's predominantly Black is damn near failing. Okay. The school that's predominantly white, I mean, A1 school, awards, all types of stuff. They're in the same damn school district. How? How is that possible? And I can't. I'm like Liz. I could go on and on and on and on and on about the educational system and how screwed up it is, at least here. Yes, yes, it is. It is. It is. It is tragic. I used to when I was in graduate school the first time, um, I tutored um what I don't even remember the name of the center, but I tutored and I was working with track students specifically. And I remember working with a young Black girl who was a freshman. Yeah, she was a freshman. And she had to read the Iliad for English as a freshman. She was reading at most, y'all, as a collegiate, as a college freshman. She was probably reading on a seventh grade level, if that. Like, how? How? Like, and I'm not going to even get into the emphasis of athlete before student, even though it's student athlete. I'm not going to even get into that conversation because that gets ugly too. See, I do too, Erica, and you won't believe how many parents I have to deal with on a daily basis at work who are like, I all they want to do is read comic books and graphic novels. So what? It's a reading. Like, I think it's elite. It's this sense of elitism that if it's not Moby Dick, if it's not, you know, the Iliad or the Odyssey, or it's not Jane Austen, it doesn't count as true intellectual thought. And that's bothersome. And people have felt that way about the genre of YA as well, that it's not true intellectual thought. And it's like, that's elitist. I really do. I think that's elitist. I think all books have something to offer to some audience. Yeah, yeah, it has. And it's the people who have never been in the classroom who make decisions about the classroom. And it's all about making money and making their coins and you know, mm, it's nasty. It's nasty. And yeah, it's crazy. Yes, and I saw your corrected comment. Yes. And yeah, and then you slap them with and this person's talking about the graphic novel, not Sarah J. Maas. Yes, which is the most iconic, one of the most, and this is how you spell it, y'all. One of the most iconic graphic novels of all time, of all time, of all time. I think that should be required reading. Actually, when I was a freshman in high school, my required reading was Persepolis. Like Persepolis, the graphic novel, which to this day is one of my favorite graphic novels too of all time. Why I didn't mention it earlier, I don't know. Yeah, and it's crazy that teachers get paid so poorly because everybody has to have a teacher. Think about it. You live in the United States. You live in the United States. At some point, you have had a teacher. and they get paid nothing. I think the state of North Carolina, a couple years back, I had a friend that was working in North Carolina. They stopped paying if you had your master's degree. Like if you had your master's degree in education, you weren't going to get paid more. They're only paying for experience. And it's like if you spend $30,000, $40,000 to get more education to become, you know, more well versed in your field, how are you not going to pay somebody more money? That to me is just that's stupid. That's stupid. No. You would think, but it's about the way that the lines are drawn. They draw lines, at least in this county, and I know it happens everywhere. They draw lines so you have segregation without schools technically being segregated on page. They're segregated, but there is no documentation saying, oh yeah, we don't want black kids going to our school. It's not saying that black kids don't go to that other school or white kids don't go to, you know, the predominantly black school, but you can tell the difference. I got called into a meeting for the predominantly black high school, and they were trying to figure out how to stop kids from dropping out. And it's crazy that I can drive 7 minutes down the street and go to this other school because technically I would be zoned to serve this high school as well. And I'm looking at two different problems. Like, I mean, two different entities, because that's the predominant white school's not having any issues. They barely even want my services as a librarian. So yeah, it's yes. Um no, because of politics. There's too many people who are looking at education as a way to stuff their pockets. Um and it would stress me out. It would stress me out having to deal, and I know Liv has to deal with that because she is a teacher, you know. Um that's why teachers don't stay in the field for long. The turnover rate for teachers is high. It's super high. At least in my state, the turnover rate is high because it's too many people who are trying to I don't know. You too many people trying to make money off of someone's future. It's sick. Um, every school's not like that. Especially when you get to college. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I don't know how many people know this, but you know, in college, they'll put you in classes knowing that the professor is easy. Or what they do to football players, which collegiate wise, you have a lot of black men that are football players. They make them, and this is, I know this for a fact at the university that I attended. I can't speak for any other university, but this is a fact because I worked in that department. They make them major in stuff like sociology, which when you graduate with a bachelor's in sociology, what are you going to do with that? I mean, you would have to further your education. And 9 times out of 10, they weren't going to. A lot of them wanted to go to the NFL, which is nothing wrong. I'm not here to deter anybody's dreams, but you're forcing someone to become a part of a major that ends up being a dead end. Because a lot of those boys, what they end up going back and doing is becoming those high school football coaches who teach social studies and don't teach social studies, which then creates a cycle of why people don't learn anything in their history classes. So cyclical, cyclical, cyclical. I can talk about that all day, but I won't. I won't. I won't do it. Um, I think there's money that can be made before that. Politicians make money based off of decisions that they make about schools, and that's before the school to prison pipeline. So I think it comes from both ends. I think they make money from both ends. I think that they have people who are investing money in them, and that's why people say that voting is so important, and it's not just about the presidential election. It's also about the local people um, who are voted in, because they make some decisions that really, really harm communities. I mean, let's be honest. The president of the United States now is doing harm to everybody, but your local legislation, they do a hell of a lot of harm. And they often fly under the radar because we are always taught about the importance of presidential elections, but not like mid-year elections and your local elections. So I think it comes from both ends. And I don't even want to get into the school to prison pipeline because mm, mm, yeah. It it's not just coaches. I mean, there are certified teachers who teach history classes, but a lot of times from my experience, the coaches end up teaching social studies because social studies is not really regarded as a important aspect of school. It's a social science. Everybody feels like, you really have to be on your P's and Q's when it comes to science and math, which is true. I wasn't a science and math kid. I was always an English and social studies kid. There are people who are certified to teach history or social studies or whatever the case may be. But what you will find is that a lot of times when coaches are at schools, they are required to teach something, and a lot of times they get put in social studies classes. And then what ends up happening is that that material is not taught. But then a lot of these coaches are people who were in college who didn't make it, who then were put into majors that they couldn't do anything. Everything is connected. I promise y'all, everything is connected. And this is not my soapbox. It's just this is my experience. They are. Teachers are unsung heroes for all of us, and they are completely and totally disrespected. There should be a higher regard for teachers than there is, to be honest. All right, y'all. So we've been going at this for 2 hours. I think I can answer like two more questions, and then we'll wrap it up for this Q&A. So the first question, do you feel pressure to have an opinion on a book? So I think that this question, um, I think this question comes from whether do I feel pressure to review? No, I personally don't feel pressure to review. I review because my job, to do readers advisory, you kind of have to have you kind of have to review. You have to have thoughts and opinions about the book. So I don't necessarily feel pressured to review. I think it's kind of just it's a natural thing that I do. That's just me. That's just me. And the last question that I have here is fave genre or top three. Yikes. Okay, if you guys will work with me on this one, I definitely consider like graphic art, so comics, manga, graphic novels to be a genre. So that's one. I read a lot of fantasy, so that's two. Um, I read a lot of realistic fiction, which I don't consider the same as um I don't consider the same as contemporary. And I don't know if that's a booktube thing or what, but to me, realistic fiction is a little different from contemporary. Like, uh, quickest example I can think of off the top of my head, like The Hate You Give, like that to me is realistic fiction, not contemporary. But that's me. Um, sis, you gotta chill. You ask me this on every video. I love you too. Ask me that on every video, every single video. That is crazy. Yeah, time flew by, man. Like 2 hours. Like I can't believe y'all let me run my mouth for 2 hours. That's crazy. That's crazy. And y'all sat here and listened to me talk for 2 hours. Yeah, we're about to wrap it up though. We are about to wrap it up. And y'all had me like, thank you, Chelsea. I'm about to say, okay, so Chelsea, thank you. All right, that's a better explanation. Contemporary as an umbrella. Yeah, I I don't know how to because we use the term realistic fiction in librarianship. So I never really know like when I'm when I'm doing booktube stuff, I never really know whether to say um contemporary or realistic fiction because I don't in librarianship we don't consider them the same thing. So it's a little different. Maybe I should make lives like a little bit more of a regular thing. This is my I mean, I've been on lives, but this is the first time like I've done a live by myself. So maybe, this should be a thing. This should be a thing. Okay. Last question. Last question, I promise. Do you have a favorite book from the 20th century? You would ask me about like no, I don't think I do. Have I read books from the 20th century? Yes. Do I have a favorite? Because actually it's horrible with and it's so sad that the only book that is popping to my mind right now that is 20 this is so bad, y'all. I'm not gonna even say it because it's so bad. I don't think I probably do have a favorite from the 20th century, but if you're asking me right now on spot about publishing dates, I'm trash, to be honest with you. I'm complete trash. And I do need to do better about reading from previous centuries because I read a lot. I was looking at this on Goodreads the other day where you can look at the dates that you've read. And I have a tendency to read a lot in the 21st century or a lot in the 19th century. But the 20th century for me, maybe not so. And maybe that has a lot to do too with me just being used to reading what is currently on market for my job. That in itself is a problem. Do I like sagas like or roots? Like Family Saga? Would you consider Pachinko a family saga? Has anybody read Pachinko? If so, when they're done well, I also read Homegoing by y'all Jesse, and I enjoyed that one. Pachinko, I liked. It was the time. I think the time jumping is what can be a hit or miss for me because you're dealing with so many different characters over the course of an extended period of time. And sometimes the time jumps can be very, very confusing. Pachinko was great. I listened to it on audio. I thoroughly enjoyed it. However, my one criticism was the time jumps because we were jumping time and sometimes I wasn't fully aware. And then the voices were changing, and then I had no idea who was talking. And I would have to go back and replay. And then people were dying, and um, it was great, but the time jumping for me is what makes family sagas kind of like a hit or miss. All right, y'all. So I think that's gonna be it. I hope I answered a lot of questions. We'll probably, I don't want to promise anything, but maybe we should do like a lives like once a month. I mean, once a month is not too bad. So just kind of give us a chance to talk in real time. But it was great. I had a lot of fun. I hope we all learned something. I hope it was engaging. I feel like my natural thing is to always try to educate as much as that's just that's the librarian in me. I can't help that. But I had a lot of fun and I hope everybody has a wonderful night. And I will see you guys back here again soon. I actually probably need to film once I probably won't, but I should have filmed today so you guys can get that July wrap up. But we'll make that happen sometime. But good night, y'all.